We try and get prepared for today's meeting. We have a number of speakers that are either here in the room or are upstairs awaiting their opportunity to come down to speak. So we're going to go ahead and get started. It is now 9:10 on April 12th, 2024, and I'm going to call the meeting to order, the regularly scheduled meeting of the board. We are meeting in person this morning with commissioner staff and members of the public in attendance. I think we are expecting one more commissioner. When she arrives, we'll be happy to receive her. We have a quorum. We do have a quorum, right? Yes, we do. 3, 4, 5. And video of today's meeting is also being streamed live online. To link to watch today's meeting, you can go to www.sdhc.org. Members of the public who wish to provide comments to the board will need to complete a speaker slip here in the boardroom and then submit it to our Vice President, Scott Marshall, who is back there by the door. In a moment, I will be proposing that agenda items 100, 101, and 102 be placed on the consent agenda for today's meeting. Members of the public may provide comments about the items on the consent agenda by submitting a speaker request form for that item before the board considers the consent agenda. Remember, to speak in favor of any item, please submit a gold-colored form. To speak in opposition, please submit a pink-colored form. And those who wish to address the board about a topic that is not on the agenda should fill out a white speaker request form. Members of the public will have... Because of the size of the crowd today, we're going to limit comments to 1 minute, depending on the item. So there will be certain items that we have more speaker slips. The normal items where there aren't many speaker slips, we will still allow for 3 minutes to provide public comments. If a large number of people are here to speak about a non-agenda public comment or speak on a single agenda item, that's where the 1 minute rule will take effect. Collective testimony by those who support or oppose an item should be limited to no more than 15 minutes total per side. So when I call your name, please step to the podium, state your name for the record, and begin making your comments. Scott Marshall will alert you as the time when the timer has reached its point. So now it is time for the non-agenda public comments. Okay, so for the non-agenda public comments, we will start first with Diego Salas.
Good morning, my name is Diego Salas. I have
Good morning,
a couple of issues that are going on at our apartment complex. They're giving a lot of violations for different things that are not, how can I say, they're not legit. They're accusing people of doing stuff that especially me, they're accusing me of doing stuff that I'm not doing, working on cars and doing all sorts of stuff. There's also an issue with the receipts. We have no rent receipts. And when they ask for the receipts, my wife asked for the receipts, and they started harassing her about it. We've been going out, for a while now with this thing, and she gets harassed all the time. Okay. They want to give her all kinds of violations because they want to evict her. I mean, now she got a violation for something that happened, and the manager wasn't there. Now, my understanding is that the building manager or the apartment complex manager supposed to give out the violations, or anybody can do that. Because I mean, the manager wasn't there, and the secretary gave her the violation. Okay. The secretary is also informing her that if she doesn't pay her rent by a certain time, she's going to get evicted. Okay.
Scott, I'm assuming, or Jeff, are we going to have somebody that will coordinate? Thank you. I see. Thank you very much. Okay. All right, Diego, we appreciate you coming down, and someone will talk to you back at the back. Okay. So thank you very much. All right. The next speaker is Carol, or Ed Carroll. Carol Ed. All right. How about Clifton Weston? Oh, Carol. Okay, Carol's coming. Good morning, Carol.
Good morning. My name's Carol, but
Scott, will you move the mic down for you? Thank you.
I'm speaking on behalf of a lot of, we came in as a little family, and, there's a lot of unfairness going on. There's a lot of medical issues, like my friend that had a mental breakdown. Now his partner has a stroke. My other friend that got run over by a car, the office was made aware of it, and they still continue to charge, and they're outrageously charging us. And then the rules are changing like every day. Every day we get something new that we need to fill out. And it's just crazy. It's gotten crazy there. It was supposed to be permanent housing for us. Now it's become a nightmare.
Okay, Carol, and you are you're at the Kearney Mesa
Yes, I am.
Kearney Vista Apartments? Okay, all right.
I'm the one that asked for the receipts, and because I asked for the receipts, I've had all kinds of issues. They told me, I don't have time. I said, can you direct me to the person that can give me the receipts?
And are you asking
Well,
for receipts for the rent?
For my rent.
For your rent, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And they told me they didn't have time. So that became a big old issue. Behind that, I've had violations, I've had harassment. If it's not one thing, it's another, you know. And I went to Denise and I mentioned it to her the way I feel. And it's like nothing's being done. It's just become
Okay.
something worse to worse to worse.
Okay.
That makes no sense to me, you know.
Okay.
But I just want to know. I want to hear it from you guys because I pay the rent to you guys.
Mm-hmm.
Is this a program or is this permanent housing for us?
Well, I think, Jeff, my understanding is that the team is looking into some of these concerns and questions, but it is supposed to be permanent housing.
It's supposed to be permanent housing because in the beginning we fought for the mailbox.
Sure.
They gave us the key to our mailbox that we would be able to get our mail.
Okay.
You know, now it's behind the gate. The mailman says that he can't deliver it to our mailboxes because it's a program.
Okay.
And we can't get our mail till the afternoon, like 3 or 4 in the afternoon. When the mail comes in the morning, it's just crazy.
Okay. All right, Carol, we're going to look at all these, and I think they're going to get all the names at the back. So thank you very much, Carol. All right, the next speaker is Clifton Weston.
Hello, good morning, Board.
Good morning, Clifton.
There's a few things that I also have. I'm also at the Kearney Villa PSH housing. The few issues that I do have are the office hours. It says 9 o'clock when you look at the office opening up, but it doesn't open up until 10:30. I volunteer. I'm usually at my place by 9 a.m. to where I volunteer. And the hours are over, they're gone by 5 p.m. So most of the time I never see anybody in front anyway. Also, we're also having trouble with just the rent. We never get receipts and there's a rent drop and nobody says anything about that. And then some of us are accused of being late with rent, into which they have no kind of standing with that since they don't issue us any type of receipt anyway. They're always changing rules. They're saying that this is, I guess, by the new rules I have in hand. They're saying that all right. They're saying that we cannot drink there and a whole bunch of other things.
Okay.
This is something that it was never agreed upon. Also, we have mail issues, like it was referenced to also.
Okay.
Let's see.
Yeah, it's the same property. It's the same.
Right.
Okay, all right. Susie, I don't know if we're just collecting the names. Was that what Susie, is that what we're doing? Okay, so
Yes.
Clifton, we'll get all your contact information and I promise you we will respond.
Will do.
Okay, thank you.
Also, I'm disabled.
Yeah.
So I don't have any kind of case management, no one
Sure.
to help me out.
Okay.
But thank you for hearing me. this
No,
morning.
Clifton, I appreciate you coming down.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
If I may, yeah. So the county does choose the service provider for the Kearney Vista apartments. Staff do regularly meet with the county and the service provider, but we will be taking down these concerns. We'll be taking down each of your names, and next week I'm thinking we do a workshop and invite the county and the service provider and to address all the things that we've heard so far and what we will hear, and be able to address those individually at next month's meeting.
Okay.
And you're all welcome to attend, of course.
So Clifton, we will be getting back to you. Thank you.
Sounds good. Thank you, sir.
I'm assuming that no one from the Kearney Vista management staff is here today.
No, we
Yeah.
frankly didn't
Okay.
know that we would be hearing these comments this
Okay.
morning.
The next speaker is Charlene. Thank you. Please state your name for the record.
My name is Charlton Charles.
Charlton Charles.
So my father is actually a contractor and an architect.
Yes.
And we're trying to get funding to do some affordable housing. My father actually, we actually did a house for someone that was an affordable home for them. It was a 3-bedroom, 2-bath with a vaulted ceiling. And we actually built it for $202,000. We did it from the ground up, brand new. And a lot of ways is that my father actually drew it himself. We have a friend who's my uncle who's an engineer. So we had it engineered, built, constructed, and it was done in a 3-month period. And I actually learned more as I was building it in terms of being able to cut costs to make it affordable. We also have 2 vacant lots that we want to build 2 3-bedroom, 2-bath duplexes. And we already have the plans already engineered and submitted to the city. And it should be probably done within the next 90 days. We're actually going to build a prototype for that. And we have a cost breakdown for $500,000 to actually construct that from the ground up as well, in a way where if there was a flood, it wouldn't affect the home as well.
Okay. All right. So you're, are you working with are you working with the Housing Federation, or you just?
We were trying to work with you guys. My dad actually built the first handicap home in San Diego for the Housing Commission in 2002. It was the first house I actually built from the ground up. And it's fully handicapped. It comes with a ramp, handlebars, everything.
So, all right. So I'm assuming the real estate folks will connect. Thanks. Thank you very much.
Cool.
Thank you, Charles. Joy Senyata. Welcome back, Joy.
Good morning, everyone. Joyce Senyata, District 3. I could take the whole minute just talking about what's happening here this morning. Isn't it wonderful? And Chair Mitchell, what I just love about you is your interaction and your engagement with people when they need help. Thank you for that. I love you so much for that.
Thank you, Joy.
And freedom of speech, isn't that the greatest thing on the earth? So I haven't been here for 3 months. I'm sorry about that. It's a long story. It was a bit challenging, but I'm back, and this is kind of my new beginning, my new year really just starting today. So a couple of things quickly. First of all, new Commissioner Cushman, it's thrilling to have you here. It's thrilling. I could talk so much about you and your work, and it's so great to have you. And I'll say something other thing quick. So is that the
Go ahead. No, Joy, go ahead. Finish your statement.
Okay. So real quickly, it's bumpy with the state right now on homeless and housing, and I'm sure you all know that. But I think the gem I'm taking out of it is the partnership between local and state. We have to fan that flame and make it stronger. So let's work together on that. It's key, I think, to get housing going. Thank you.
Thank you, Joy. Welcome back. All right, the next speaker is Ben Guillermo, and followed by, I think, Lonnie. Jamie? Connie. All right, Ben.
Okay, good morning. My name is Ben Guillermo. I'm a proud employee of the San Diego Housing Commission for the past 16 plus years, and also a member of the SEIU Local 221. As we start the process to negotiate a new contract, it is our desire and mission to prioritize the well-being of our co-workers by negotiating for fair pay, benefits, and any additional services that can retain and recruit staff to keep fighting the housing crisis in San Diego. As you may know, according to a U.S. News and World Report in late October of 2023, San Diego was recognized as the most expensive city to live in the U.S. This is the same city we serve, but also call home. We are passionate about the work we do because we believe in our mission to provide safe, decent, and sanitary housing services to families wanting to improve their economic and social well-being. This is the time we come to you asking to join us to make San Diego Housing Commission an employer of choice that recognizes its employees and their efforts. A simple act of solidarity recognizing employees as part of the community we are passionate about. What can I say? We're about people. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ben, and please tell Crystal I haven't heard from her in a while, so she might want to find some time for coffee with me. All right, thanks, Ben. Appreciate it. All right, next up is Connie Zuniga. Good morning, Connie.
Good morning. I'm here to speak on the storage center, so I'm waiting for that item to come up to address you
Okay,
people,
so-
the board.
All right, so you want to, that'll be the, okay, so when we call that item,
Thank you.
oh, wait, we put that on consent, right? Yes, we did. Connie, you can talk about it now, actually, because it is on consent. So go ahead.
Okay, I'm here to represent the community who is just absolutely sick and tired of the problems created by the storage center. Millions of dollars have been spent. Operations and security, police overtime, millions of dollars. And what do we have to show for it? None of the children in the community can go outside. They're going to spend their summers locked inside because it's too dangerous. We lost Walmart because the homeless stole it out of business. Today, the 17,000 square foot family health center, this is their last day because they can't operate with all this stealing by the homeless on a daily basis. And you continue to bring in more homeless to a community, a low-income community that is suffering the effects of COVID, high rents, high cost of food. And here we're going to have more homeless. You brought in a storage center with 500 homeless and one bathroom. Their bathroom was our streets. It took us 2 years for you people to get a porta potty and a washing station. This is inhumane. It's inhumane. The safety, the health, and the mental welfare of children are more important than the homeless. This community is up to here. We lost all our grocery stores. The 99-cent store is going. We are left without any grocery stores and people who do not drive. And then we have to deal with the homeless. We had 20th and Imperial Commercial. It was horrible. Homeless out in the street, the fields, they were living like animals. You couldn't walk by there. The stench. And this is what children see 7 days a week. And they're going to spend their summers locked up in their houses because it's too dangerous. And you continue with the storage center, we will continue to complain and to come before you and ask you to do something. We don't need 500 more homeless in addition to St. Vincent de Paul, the Newgood Center, the women's shelter on 17th Street, and the sleeping quarters on Newton. How much more do you expect this community to absorb? It's totally unfair. This goes back years and years. I call it now, it's racial. It is racial. I'm a native San Diegan. My family came here in 1912 from the territory of Arizona. I have seen every change in San Diego. I retired in 1991 from General Dynamics to a life of volunteer work. This is all I do, is volunteer down the neighborhood to see what's going on, to see how I can address problems, how I can go before city council and ask, do something for us. And what do we get? Nothing. We get nothing. And here we are again, another contract for the storage center. If it was a private business, they would fire the CEO for the RII, for return on investments. Zero. The only people that make money are the staff that work there. The community hates this center, they hate the situation they have to endure, and they feel helpless.
Okay.
And I'm here to complain. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Connie. We heard you loud and clear. This is on the consent agenda, but I would ask Jeff that I do think that when in the information we received on this, if we could actually have a conversation at a future meeting about what the plan is around the storage centers, because I think there are some things that were supposedly happening around security and maintenance at all. So if the staff can come back, I think that would help all of us understand how we're actually operating the centers, and it's just not the contract to be open. Okay, the next speaker is Ellis Rose, followed by Joe Guiney. Joe Guiney.
Good morning, board. If you remember, I was here a month ago, and I was using a walker. This is a big deal. This is my first few days off of the walker. And I'm here to first of all say that at the Cypress Apartments, 1435 Imperial Avenue, we are, as a result of my being here last month, starting to see improvements. Okay? There's a lot of work to be done still. In terms of the black mold in my apartment, they took out almost the entire outer wall. Not only the entire wall from wall to wall, but 2 layers of drywall. And they still have not removed the large equipment in my apartment and haven't provided me with any assistance in terms of cleaning my apartment for mold spores. So that job isn't done, and in fact, if they don't schedule an inspection, and I understand the building manager has to schedule that with the Housing Commission, and it goes past a certain date, I lose my Section 8. They don't get punished, I get punished. I need to tell you that security in the building is non-existent. I literally had 2 weeks ago, I had a security guard thank me for going to the Housing Commission. Not that it did a whole lot for him in the immediate moment, but things are bad, they're out of hand. I've had people come to my door looking for drugs. I've been robbed in my apartment. I can't even begin to list the things that are happening. I would be here for an hour if I did. And so that needs to be addressed, because there was effective security when I moved in back in 2017, and it is non-existent. I just wanted to let you know also that when I was here last, I asked if you would please talk to the residents. Let us tell you about our complaints. No one has come to us. No one. And I know all the people that I am here representing, and none of them have been talked to. I have not been talked to. And Lisa Jones knows me. Okay? So I assume that she's avoiding me. In fact, actually, I'm also waiting for 2 other calls from her that go back a few years. They never happened either. And I need to tell you that it's really important, because everybody has different stories, and they're all very real. Okay? I can't summarize them.
Okay.
Yes.
No, go.
I did want to say that when we're talking, I heard the comment about a workshop.
Yes.
You know what? Housing First has a best practice called inclusion, where you include the people who are receiving services. It's interesting that I didn't hear any mention of the residents being part of that workshop. I see people showing up here organized in groups. That tells me that somebody there can responsibly speak for them. Why are you not including them too?
So I would just say that when Mr. Davis mentioned the workshop, it was the intent of the workshop is to have a conversation with the residents and the operators.
Well, I hope so, because I don't see that happen.
Well,
and
right.
I've seen this happen at the city council level, here at the Housing Commission, at other levels too. And I just need to say, you need to get down on it, and you need to do it.
Okay.
It doesn't happen.
Thank you. I think Susie's back there, and she'll get your name and all your information. Thank you, Susie. All
Okay.
right.
And I just wanted to say, I do recognize when good things happen. I would like to be coming back here and telling you about those.
Okay. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Joe?
Thank you. My name is Joe Guiney, and I'm here to talk about this is out of left field for you guys, but you hear a lot of talk about the intractable homeless problem in San Diego. And you probably hear more than I do. I recently was looking for a place. I was thinking about moving. I live on a boat right now in Pier 32. Any place you go, it isn't enough now to have first and last and a security deposit. Now you have to show them a check stub that says you're making 3 times the rent. So, for example, most of the search engines that you go to for these, looking for these, I put in studio, Chula Vista, and then you go to the filter. What's the maximum you can pay? It starts at $2,500 for a studio in Chula Vista. So that means a guy who's making 90 grand a year isn't going to buy a place. No, he's going to rent a little 300 square foot studio in Chula Vista. This makes no sense for either landlords or prospective tenants. Do you really want to rent your... Oh, I'm sorry. Well, that was a quick minute. Anyway, I would like to see something done about this. I realize a lot of these people have really serious personal issues and stuff, and I feel like I'm kind of like, like a elitist or something coming in here. But I have an 815 FICO score. That and $5 will get you a cup of coffee. Okay, it's pointless. So I think this is an issue that is affecting hundreds of thousands of San Diegans who can't afford, I can afford a place, but they don't think I can. They decide for you what you can afford. Yeah. This practice, I mean, I've never said this before. There ought to be a law. There ought to be a law against this. This, some kind of policy. Do you guys have lobbyists that up in Sacramento that can do something about this? Because it's absurd. I mean, who is going to, it doesn't make any sense for either party. And that's all, I guess that's about it, you know. I will say this. One guy that I talked to, a slip neighbor of mine who I know owns some property in Chula Vista. And he doesn't have anything I can afford, right? But I said, look, what about this? If I can get past the firewall of these property management companies, and I go to a landlord and I go, I'll give you first and last and security deposit, and then I'll give you an additional 3 months rent deposit. You feel comfortable with that? No, you have 4 months to kick me out if I, unprecedented event, I don't pay rent.
Yep.
And that's illegal.
Yeah.
So, anyway,
all right.
Thank you very much.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much for showing up today. All right. The next two speakers, Danye Burleson and then Lindsay.
Hello, my name is Danya. I'm representing for the Kearney Mesa Apartments, and we all have respiratory problems now because of the mold. And they don't come and treat our mold, they just cover it up with paint and then put blue tape across it. We have lease law violations that don't make any sense, none whatsoever. And every time we have a meeting, they speak on issues, but then nothing ever gets resolved. And we need the help. We need somebody to come and speak up for us and get the things done. Our apartments are really tacky. Anything that needs to be done, it's always an issue. They have the janitors, they come and they sugarcoat everything or tell us what we need to do and what we need to stop doing. It makes no sense, none whatsoever. Okay. And we're really getting sick in there with the mold. We have on my side, it's a roofing problem. But their roof leaks, and so it comes into one of the closets in my house. And it's all just moldy everywhere, and all they do is cover it up with tape.
Okay.
It's a real big issue, especially for us beginning sick.
Danya, we appreciate you coming down. I think that what we're hearing loud and clear is there, and my commitment to you is we are going to look into all of these violations, or all these statements, because the intent is for you to be living in a place that is both safe and appropriate. Yes. So thank you for coming down.
Thank you.
Lindsay, followed by Daniel. Good morning, Lindsay.
Good morning. My name is Lindsay Prescott. This is my daughter, Mia. I'm a single mom. I live at 5400 Kearney Mesa Road. It's scary there as a single mom. The police are always there. There's drugs. I'm in recovery myself. I've been sober 4 years. I actually had to fight for my daughter to get her out of foster care when she was born, and I successfully did that, as you can see. We don't even leave our apartment, really. We're pretty much inside 24/7 because of the people that live there, the drugs, the activities. I've been woken up several times in the middle of the night to police trying to break down my neighbors' doors, trying to arrest them. I've been promised a new place to live, and in 3, almost 4 years, I'm still in the same place. I need a bigger apartment. I filled out a reasonable accommodation to at least get a 1-bedroom.
Okay.
I'm still waiting. That was almost 3 years ago now.
Okay.
I keep getting promised help and nothing.
So you are on the list for a new unit from the Housing Commission?
Supposedly.
Okay.
As far as I know.
Okay. All right.
I filled out 2 reasonable accommodations and have received, I got 1 phone call for a studio right after I filled out the first one, and I received no phone calls since.
Okay. Susie will get your name, and we'll make sure that you're on the right list.
Okay.
So you'll see her back there. So
Thank you,
Lindsay. Appreciate it.
Baby.
All right, Daniel.
Afternoon.
Good afternoon, Daniel.
My name is Daniel Bryant, and I live in the same apartments with Lindsay and all the rest, and with my mom, Beverly. She's in back there too.
Okay.
And we've been having, like what Lindsay said, drug people and dealers and everything, always a lot of traffic, and our vehicles always getting vandalized. I have one person that is always on drugs, and she's like right next to me, and my other one is on my other side, apartment 124 and 223. They always have a bunch of traffic coming and going, and they send their Dominions out to vandalize our vehicle, mine and my mom's. And we put this to numerous people.
The management
and
team at the...
everybody, and nothing's getting done.
Okay. All right, Daniel, appreciate you coming down. I think I want to make sure Susie gets your name and your number. And, you know, again, my commitment...
Right, it's speechless, I understand. And like my mom's a senior, so she's in there in the white.
Yeah,
white
that's fair.
So.
So we'll get your stuff and
Okay.
get back to you.
Thank you so much.
Right, thanks. All right, the next two speakers are Derek Jones and Bryce Griggs.
Good morning, San Diego Housing Commissions. My name is Derek Jones. I'm with Kearney Mesa Housing. I'm just asking that the San Diego Housing Commissions work with me on an issue that I have that has mentally disturbed me. I've had a 30-day notice to quit or pay, to leave on a situation that I was out of control with, but I was being mentally disturbed with what was happening. I'm seeking treatment right now, and I'm asking San Diego Housing to help me save my housing.
Okay. And so you've received a notice from the commission for...
Yes.
It says here notice. Okay. All right.
I'm just asking someone to work with me.
Okay.
I don't need to be homeless. I'm trying to be productive with the system.
Okay.
And I did have a mental illness.
Okay. Yeah, that's right. Susie has stepped out, I think. She's right there. All right, Derek, when you get back, Susie will make sure we get you connected to the right people.
Okay, great.
Thank you very much,
I
Derek.
appreciate you guys.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Bryce Griggs, and followed by Taranda Lynn Roberts.
Morning.
Good morning, Bryce.
My name is Bryce Griggs. I'm also a resident at 5400 Kearney Vista Apartments. I have two pressing issues. There was no clarity upon I and my roommate moving into the facility 3 years ago in terms of head of household and the responsibility as us as individuals and our independence. And unfortunately, I found out that I was head of household and my roommate wasn't. In the process, I lost my job, and there was no clarity on how we were to pay rent in terms of her half, my half, et cetera, et cetera. I come to find out that all the responsibility was upon me. I got rental reduction, et cetera, et cetera. However, my friend has mental issues. She's, disability, et cetera, and in her fear, et cetera, she left the apartment prematurely. And at the time, Telecare was there supposedly to help her stay established in terms of filing paperwork, whatever that needed to be to transition from that house to another house or get treatment or whatever, and it never happened, and she ended up becoming homeless. So at this point in time, she's couch surfing on my house, which means that in the house, which means I was in a 2-bedroom. Once she left, months later, they put me into a 1-bedroom. And she never found housing. Telecare never helped her. And so me, I'm helping her now just by the way of couch surfing and her trying to still get assistance from you guys. And it's been very difficult for her to get that information. She's on a fixed income. She could pay rent, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. The second pressing issue is my health and the health of the building. I donate plasma anywhere in the county of San Diego. Unfortunately, living here, they see that it is a place that has once been a hotel. Now it's a residence. So now they see that there's a leasing there, a leasing application, whatever. They accept that. However, unfortunately, what they don't accept is the condition of the building. They said it's an undesirable location, and I cannot donate anywhere in the state of California legally because of that. due to black mold, bugs, et cetera, rats. They have rats in where we live about this big, bro. They're huge. And however, like I said, I have two pressing issues, and one Michelle Bennett trying to rehouse her.
Yep.
And two, of course, the health of the building. I've been trying with the city. They would come there. We would walk through the property, and they'll see the roof is all green, and it leads all up into our porches, and we're tracking that stuff in our houses. They suggest that we go on wherever we think mold is at to go and clean it up, and if it is black mold, then why would we do that, There is a company that does come and deals with black mold.
Yep.
And so in terms of the plasma centers, they're saying the only way that they can get clarity is with the health department coming in there and doing whatever they have to do.
All right.
So.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Bryce. Appreciate it. Taranda Lynn Roberts, followed by. Good morning, Commissioners. Good morning. Followed by Jose Oliveira.
As a person that looking from the outside, looking in from the Kearny Mesa Apartments, my name is Taranda Lynn Roberts, and I was 86 from your apartment complex. I've been on your list 13 years. When I got off parole, I lost my kids because I didn't have housing. I've helped 4 families pass inspection. The kids don't come outside because you do have outsiders, like myself, but in a violent, in a more profound sense. They come and ask a child, 14 years old, does she have a crystal pipe? There's black mold. I have pictures if you guys want to elaborate on that later. I can email them to you. I'm an outsider looking in. I've been banned. I've been prosecuted. Rest in peace. My ex is dead and wasn't found for damn near a month, along with others that have not been found right away. They just sit there. Any other time telecare is there. Any other time the Housing Commission is there. There should be a protocol and everybody should have a chain of command. You can't have the Housing Commission emblem on a paper and the Housing Commission didn't write it. And it's confusing the elderly or the disabled, the ones that can't get out, and you tell them, you need to have this off your porch. And they know they can't move. And I'm 86th, and this is what I do on a daily basis. But I'm 86 helping others.
Okay.
It ain't about me. It's not about me. It's about others, because I grew up that way, to respect my elders and to watch over them. And to piggyback on what that older gentleman said about the homeless, when you ain't got a bathroom to piss in, and you got to go to the bathroom and you ain't going to defecate on yourself, where you going to use it at and you ain't got a home?
Okay.
So how can you knock them? Because you need me. If a person got a drug problem, you bring in someone that's to identify that. Mental health, disability, you don't just bring in one program. They ain't even freaking knowledgeable, ain't never been there, or they don't even have the schooling. And I have a bachelor. I am a recovered alcoholic addict who's now back drinking heavy because I see what's going on. Because I'm always trying to figure out ways, and sometimes it takes me 3 or 4 days just get down the complex, up from the beginning to the back, to check on certain folks.
All right, so Taranda, do you live
Thank
it? Do you live it?
God
Thank you.
bless.
Thank you. God bless. Thank you. Jose Oliveira. Beverly St. Germain, followed by Tanya Carr. And the final speaker is Seraphima.
Hello, my name is Beverly St. Germain. I'm from the 5400 Kearny Mesa Road. The way I get treated over there, I go and I turn it over to the manager or even telecare. Nothing gets done. And I'm talking about ways the neighbors talk to me in a sexual manner. I've had a neighbor rush up on me. I've had another neighbor stop and, hey, you got any drugs for me?
Yeah.
Nothing, everything gets reported, but nothing gets done.
Okay.
My son's truck is getting vandalized. I've gone in and complained many times, or beginning to think you're crazy.
Yeah.
Who's that right?
Okay. And you're Daniel's mom?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, and I've turned everything over to the San Diego Housing Commission. Nothing gets done, and the truck been getting vandalized. They scratch it, they hit it. I mean, they went as far as to scratch the windows. I've turned it all over to the Housing Commission. Still, nothing gets done.
Okay.
And it's like, why do we have all these cameras?
Okay.
They never see anything.
Okay. All right.
You know, even with the security, you know. I mean, why are they catching whoever's messing around with my son's truck?
Okay.
I mean, when we first moved in, there wasn't no marks on it. Well, now it's marked up all the way around, even the windows.
All right.
You know, but being talked to from a couple of my neighbors, you would not believe the things that they have said to me. Accused me and my son of, I ain't even gonna say it, just straight up nasty, dirty.
Okay.
You know?
All right. Thank you, Beverly.
All right.
I appreciate you coming down.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Tanya Carr, and then followed by Seraphina. Good morning, Tanya.
Good morning, I'm Tanya Lynn Carr. I also reside in the Kearney Mesa Road apartment.
Scott, will you bring the mic closer to her, please? Thank you.
A year ago, I was a victim of a hit and run. I was working at Walmart on Shoreline Street, down from Claremont Mesa Boulevard. The car hit me, clipped me. I landed face down, and it ran over my left foot. So I was out of work for that time, which the complex was aware of it. Then not too long after that, the impact, you know, my aorta split, and then my lungs collapsed. And again, they both were aware of this. Walmart ends up terminating me, and so I had no problem with paying my rent. But being that I was out of work then, you know, I was in and out of the hospital for pneumonia as well. And so I haven't worked since the accident. And I don't understand how the Hyder management would keep on charging me and adding up to this enormous amount of rent that I cannot pay. And what's another thing that bothers me is the San Diego Housing Commission is suing me. Well, they said I'm protected under COVID-19 and by federal law. But I'm still stressed out because this amount of rent that I'm supposed to pay.
Okay.
Then I can't.
Okay.
Oh, okay. So the issue with the apartment is the address. It's still considered a business. It's never going to stop being a business, being a Marriott. You know, the management changed the address from 5400 to 5414. Makes no sense. You know, and as far as the mail, it's delivered at 10 in the morning. But we don't receive it until late in the afternoon where businesses are closed. You know, you can't really get anything. I haven't had any problem really with receiving my rent, but it's just the time.
Okay. All right. I get it.
Again, one more thing. I was trying to understand. We went in, it's called project based now. And it says that disabled and elderly people pay zero rent. They keep on mentioning about an 18-year-old that none of us truly have. You know, that is in school and you pay. They said that we're supposed to be 33.3% of our rent, but we're getting mixed information.
Okay.
Because one part is saying that we only pay 28%. Again, disabled, the elderly pay zero rent.
Okay.
I understand. I want to speak on people that do pay and people that don't pay.
Yes. Okay.
One other thing, and then I want to try to understand, when we came in, it was called permanent supportive housing. And I assume that, to me, that's the pamphlet that they have for us that says zero rent. But from what I understand, that permanent supportive housing, that you wouldn't have to worry about being evicted.
Yeah. Okay.
But I asked the staff that, and nobody can tell me exactly what that means.
Okay. All right.
Because I
Thank
interpreted
you.
it to mean you wouldn't get evicted.
Thank you very much, Tanya. Susie, you get her, thank you very much. All right, well, last speaker, Serafima.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
It's nice to see you all again. I was here 2 months ago, and I did mention that the tenants did want to come today to speak to you all. So as you can see, the whole 2 back rows who were speaking to you and addressing you. I'm going to go over some items that just kind of reiterate a lot of the things that they already had said, but just I'm also an eyewitness of these things. I've been visiting them as my friends for the last, I would say 3-4 years now since the apartment became an apartment. Let's see. So I would like to request like the place tented. You know, the rats, the roaches, the black mold is just out of control. I mean, they're spraying once a month. And then the amount of work that the tenants have to do to prepare for these sprayings or these inspections is actually like very challenging, especially for the elderly and, you know, and mothers of children where they have to focus on their children. They have to center everything. Wow, that was quick.
Go ahead.
So, you know, that's one thing, you know, put them somewhere so that you could get it all fixed, all in one shot. I mean, they're getting really sick. You know, some reported mold in their lungs. RAD response time, you know, they say, oh, call us and then we'll come out in 3 days, for sure in 3 days. I was like, okay, let's see. So some tenants called. Instead, they caught 83 rats, you know, and plug their holes, you know, and they did try to get Housing Commission to come out there and do the special inspection. That didn't go through. Telecare on-site management, you know, I'm sadly, you know, rude, antagonistic, and just their behavior is really, really poor and mistreating, again, I will say this again, mistreating the people. And this is my witness and my assessment, you know, sadly, a poor top-down leadership. Mail, zoning, they need to know whether they can get their mail on the weekend. I mean, what happened, you know, sometimes they need something like I had one tenant missing their DMV. They were waiting for a DMV mail, their ID. Now they can't get their ID. Now they can't get their things processed on their daily. And this individual tenant has a child. And so what's going on with the mail zoning? I mean, I thought I read that it's supposed to be business and some aspect of it residential. So if it's residentially zoned, then why can't the buses go there? Why can't they get their mail every day? And why is security doing? And there is a lot of mishandling of the mail. And that's unfortunate.
Okay.
Rent accusations leading to court orders and putting the people out. I mean, I have 2 people right now that are out homeless that were living there for at least 3 to 4 years and had to go with court. The San Diego Housing Authority, do we need to advise them? Do we need to call NEPA, CEQA, HUD, and notify them of all these things? Because 3 or 4 years, that's a very long time to be living like this. And unexpected deaths, I mean, it's just too much for them. You know, housing quality standards, are we meeting them? I mean, truly, we need to really dig into this. I mean, it's not just Kearney Vista Apartments, it's the other apartments apparently, right? You heard from another individual here from a different complex, and I just heard from somebody from the 14th and Market apartment complex. Same things are going on. So, you know, stop focusing on building new things and you know, cutting tape on new things. Let's perfect what you have now. Let's perfect this right now. You know, sometimes you need to just go in there yourself. If you spend 1 week, you know, I used to work for Sony, and as an engineer, I would get the highest management. I would have them build PCs from scratch just to show them what it was like. Okay. I think you all need to go there. Document accountability. Okay, there's mishandling of documents. There's no databases. There's no Hydra management. You know, protect these tenants. I do not want to see a single one of them out because they have voiced their thoughts and their concerns. Okay. And the workshop. Thank you. Really appreciate that you will try to have a workshop. Yeah. That is so important, especially with the back and forth. We can work together. We really can. Okay. And the tenants are willing.
So, Seraphine, what I would suggest is Susie, we'll make sure that we connect when we will have the workshop and the conversation. I think that obviously we've heard loud and clear today. There are some things that we need to explore and try and resolve. So, Susie will get all. I think she has your information from when you were here the last time, but just in case.
And
we'll get
I
it.
only got called once, and that's just to say, oh, suggest a special inspection.
Okay.
You know, so that's 2 months ago.
Okay,
So,
we appreciate it, sir. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. That is the last of the public comment, non-agenda item public comments, and we will now move on to commissioner comments. Commissioners, would you like to make any comments? Vice Chair Klempner, or then Tony, and then Melinda.
Actually, Tony, why don't you go first?
Okay, I see the need from what I've heard here, and I've heard this before, especially from this apartment complex, and I had advised people a few months ago, to bring up some of the issues. So I think there needs to be more in-depth looking into the matters there, and maybe like an ombudsman or a liaison in between the tenants, the management, and the housing commission. Someone that can actually check up and follow up on these a little bit more thoroughly.
Yeah, Commissioner Jackson, I would suggest, again, you've heard that we've committed to a workshop, with the resident. I do believe that it is important that we, as the commission board, get a detailed report on this, on the facility. No one should live like that, if it indeed is true. So we just need to wait for staff. I would ask that staff make this a priority, and we get that report quickly. And get these issues addressed. So, Commissioner Vasquez, or do you want to?
It's going to take two of us to get through this meeting as well. Ditto to everything Mitch just said. We're well aware of this. We hear you loud and clear. And these are complicated issues, and I hate to say that because it is such an excuse and a fallback, and it's not acceptable. But we do have to be real about what can and can't be done overnight. And so I also want to be honest about what it's going to take to resolve these problems. I also want to say that we are learning. We are on the cutting edge of creating from scratch a system for people that does not exist anywhere, right? Permanent supportive housing is asked to solve such a range and depth of problems. And it is, to be realistic, unreasonable that we expect permanent supportive housing to be able to do all these things. But what we can do is, especially as these properties age and as people live there for longer periods of time, we can learn what the needs are, and we can understand what the staffing levels are and what the investments required to not just house people, but to house them well, what those costs are. And I think it's also important to recognize that this is why things like property maintenance budgets cannot be viewed as a fund that can be rated to cover disaster response, real estate deals, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We need our property maintenance funds desperately. They do not go far enough already. And I think that everybody on this board is ready to fight to protect property maintenance funds, because it is not some theoretical budget that means we're mowing grass less frequently. It is health and safety, and we understand that. I'd like anybody else who wants to respond to this subject, my commissioners, but when we're done, I'm also going to ask Casey to give us the monthly report on what's happening in our shelter system.
I just will add one thing. The vice chair and I both, we are aligned on this. I think it's going to be important for the team, and Jeff, you're sitting here. The maintenance of the properties. It is not enough to just put someone in a property. Maintaining the property so that it is safe and secure is really important to all of us here. This was really hard to listen to. And again, we haven't verified, but I have a sense that the number of people who showed up, have a real complaint, so I think it's important for us to, when, as the vice chair says, the maintenance components. I actually, think that I'd like to understand more about what our requirements are for maintenance, upkeep, security, and the contract clauses for the operation of management offices. I don't understand the mail piece, if that is indeed true, that you can't get your mail till 3. But I think that the maintenance of buildings, and I know that we have a focus on, there's a new law on balconies that we have to address for next year, but, the basics of just living conditions, are really important. So I would echo what you said. So, Melinda, then Johanna, we're going to go ahead.
So thank you. I am disappointed and distraught by what I heard, specifically from the Mesa Vista Apartments. As with PQ Village, my sister and her friend lived there when my niece and nephew were very small, and so I'm familiar with that complex and familiar with the reasons why she was there. It was because she qualified for subsidized housing. I think that it cannot be lost that it is a business that is supposed to invest in its property, and it's supposed to invest and make sure that the quality of the housing is kept up, and it shouldn't just be annually in order to qualify for their vouchers or for their status with the Housing Commission. But I also know that, unfortunately, people's integrity really shows when no one's watching. And so when you have somebody who is living with a disability, living with, single mom, living with a drug addiction, and they make a complaint to the office, and then the office gives you a substandard or shallow answer as to what it is that you need to do, that they feel like they've checked that off the list, and that's not acceptable. So I would ask that if staff could help the commissioners, who all care deeply about the people that we serve, to somehow get the list of complaints from each of these locations so that we get notified ahead of time. So that even if you're not able to come to our meetings because you're dealing with your own stuff, that we are admonished about what the status is on any given community, and then that triggers us as an agency to dive deeper into the issues in those individual properties. It's unacceptable. I'm hearing problems on both sides. It's not just the issue of the tenant that is subjected to mold or to not understanding the process for the eviction process or what the requirements are, but we're also hearing people that are living there that are being harassed by other tenants. So there's a problem that is deeper than mowing lawns, as Vice Chair Klumpner stated, right? Just normal maintenance. And what we have seen on this commission is that you will see developers or property owners that will accept taxpayer dollars in order to pay rent, and then not use those monies or not use them in order to invest in their properties, and let those properties run down to unlivable situations, and then the people that live there can't or don't know how to assert their rights, and then they come into the city and say, hey, we need these units that we've been collecting money hand over fist are no longer livable. We need to tear them down. We need to displace these people, and then they build fair market rated housing, and that is just unacceptable. So we know that we can maintain properties to exist for hundreds of years. We have plenty of those units, and so at any rate, before it gets to that point with all of our properties that we have a relationship with, I would like to see some way of notifying the commissioners about all of the complaints that are existing on the different units, so that you guys know that we're notified, and maybe that will force these property managers to take heed when you guys complain about issues.
I think Commissioner Vasquez, one of the things I've written down is that I would like to better understand the notification process that comes from the properties. So the properties were required to submit to the Housing Commission the complaints that are coming into them, and I don't know that to be the case. I think that's the first start, right? Is, if you are a property manager coming in, you don't have to actually tell us that you've received 100 complaints, then you don't feel like there's anybody that you need to report to or respond to. So if that is the case, we need to change that, but let's find out from staff first.
And
The commissioner has to,
and I'm sorry, but sometimes, they're not going to do what they're supposed to be doing anyway. I mean, right? And so then.
Well, if we
to
enforce
have
it,
the residents,
yeah.
Right.
We have to enforce it.
Yeah.
It's up to us.
And in addition to that the people can come directly to us
Sure.
and say, look, I've already filed a complaint, nothing has happened,
Yep.
and let us know.
Yeah.
And I just want to make sure, even though this isn't necessarily what other commissions have done in the past, but I know this board specifically cares deeply about the residents that we serve.
Yeah.
And I want to know, what are these complaints? How long have they been in existence, and what's being done about it?
I think thank you, Commissioner Vasquez. I think what's really important, Jeff, for you as well is you probably, if you are getting a notification, I think it'd be important for the board to understand which properties are getting the most complaints, because they need to be prioritized, and we need to fix that. So Commissioner Hester.
Thank you. I second everything Sister Melinda has said, and sentiment. You said it so eloquently. I am beside myself. I am angry at the testimony we got today that we are a part of a system that continues treating and not solving and not being part of a system that solves people's living conditions as we are the housing commissioner. I want to say that I would like, and if I have to put in motion, Mitch, I will, to put an audit. I'd like to see an audit of our properties and the conditions in which, and then whatever it is that we need, people should not live the way that they described it. When they talk about seniors and single moms, these are very near and dear to my heart. I see them as the union members that we represent. In my union, I just cannot bear it. I cannot be part of an institution that does not figure out how to solve it. And I know it's money, and I know it's a system, but you know what? We got to do better. That's all. I am so angry.
Yeah, I understand that, Commissioner Hester. Yes, Commissioner Cushman.
I don't know that I have much voice, but as the new kid on the block, there's a systemic problem here, Mitch. We've got 600 employees. Do we not have a department that goes out and surveys our 4,000 units?
I think that's a question.
I've heard this now on, I think, 6 different properties between the meetings that I've been in. Somebody should be out doing quality control. I mean, when it's black mold, rats, I mean, this is the most simple stuff in the world. This isn't somebody getting a rent receipt. That's a problem that's easily solved. But I would ask Jeff, do we have all these people, 600 people we got around here, do we have half a dozen people that go out on a regular basis and look at every single property we've got, report back into you folks as to, we were at 5400 Kearney Mesa, it has black mold, it has this. They talk to the residents, they should meet with the residents, say that somebody from the Housing Commission is going to be here Tuesday at 10 o'clock. And anybody wants to come talk. And then all that feeds back to you. So if we do not have 6 people that are looking at our 4,000 units and reporting back to you, at which point then you report back to the commission. Because I don't want to sit here for the next 12 months listening to 20 people every single week talking about rats, mold. I mean, that's inexcusable. So I would ask, A, do we have a department? If not, let's pull some people out of other departments and let's stand up a quality control group right now and have them start reporting back in on the care of every one of our properties.
Second that.
That's what I'd do if it was my business.
Yeah, no, I thank you for the question, and I feel like I have to preface my comments by saying I was very disheartened and saddened by the things I heard as well. Some of the comments or some of the concerns I know that we have been aware of, and staff have been working very closely with the county and the service provider, and I want to say being on site regularly. Clearly, it's not enough. I see that very clearly. We see that very clearly. But to answer your question, Commissioner Cushman, we have so all of these at the Kearney Vista apartments, and I would just make as a footnote, some of the complaints that have been stated today and in other meetings are not properties that we own or manage. But in the Kearney Vista property, yes, that is very much ours. It's one of the permanent supportive housing hotels that we purchased.
And that was the bulk of it.
And that was the bulk of it. And in each of those units, there is a voucher attached to it. And so we have a very robust, I want to say 30-member staff of our inspection department that go out to those properties at least once every 2 years and does a housing quality standards inspection at any time. And again, I'm not making excuses. There's obviously issues that we will be looking very deeply into over the course of the next month. But at any time, a tenant can call us and ask for a special inspection. And we will go out, usually within 24 hours, and do another inspection because something has evidently changed since the last time we were out there. On the other side of the shop, we have our asset management team, which oversees all of our properties not on a voucher-related basis, but to make sure that our portfolio is up to standard, up to health standards, up to quality living standards. And, I appreciate the unfortunate truths of what Commissioner Kumpner pointed out earlier. We are learning. We're on the cutting edge of taking hotels and turning them into projects where everyone that is living there is formerly someone who was living on the streets. And we initially filled those 2 hotels with people coming right out of the convention center after the pandemic. We are learning. We knew we needed more security. We knew we needed more money in the maintenance budgets for these properties, but we did not know the extent. And that's something that we've learned over the course of the years that we have had these properties, that they are much more expensive to maintain and upkeep and keep security so that people feel safe. And we're still learning, and we certainly learned a lot today. I promise you, I know Lisa would promise you the same, we will talk to every one of those individuals that came out today. We will find out what is the crux of the matter, and we will be working with the service provider and the county, and we will come back to you next month with a detailed report back on each complaint that came forward and what we're doing about it. For example, some of them will, the mail issue, that's a post office issue. We can't solve that one.
But the mail arrives at 10, and they said they're not allowed,
Yeah, and they don't get
allowed to
them.
get it until 3.
Well, but it comes in a big old stack of mail, and somebody's got to go through that and put it in the individual boxes. I'm not saying, but there's some of them are going to have, maybe not the solutions that the clients want, but some of these issues are clearly things that we need to be doing better, and we will be reporting back to you next month about what we've learned.
Commissioner Hester.
But Jeff, thank you for that answer. My question is at a higher level. Mine is a systemic question. Do we have a department, a group of people? We do a great job of checking vouchers and checking back in and doing all that.
Yeah.
My question is, do we have somebody looking at our facilities, not every 2 years, that's way too long.
Yeah, that was.
Do we have somebody, several somebodies, like 6 people, whose job is to look at facilities management? Do we have such a department? Sorry, but I want to finish.
Oh, there we go. Yes, we do. It's our asset management team, and we can include that as part of the workshop next month as far as exactly.
They better show us that they've done it, because they obviously haven't gone to this place.
Well, they have.
They have.
Here's what I would say. I think that the question was correct. I will admit that, Jeff, when you just said that we have somebody that goes out once every 2 years, that caught me by surprise. I can't imagine why that would ever make sense, but I want to wait till the workshop. I agree with Commissioner Cushman that some of the properties that are being managed, need to expect that there are going to be surprise inspections, and they're going to happen regularly and often throughout the course of the year. If you want to, try and keep people focused on the same thing. Look, we want to be a great place to work, and this team has heard me say this before, I appreciate every single person that works for the Housing Commission. We also want to make sure that the properties that we're running, that we're controlling, that are within our control, that we are not slumlords. That is the most important statement, is that we are an organization that is caring from top to bottom, not just about our employees, but about our clients that live on our properties. And I think that that's something we're going to have to figure out. And as Vice Chair Klempner said, this is new and we're building it while we're flying, but we need to think about the things that are necessities. Living conditions should not be a luxury. It's a right, right? And this was a really hard hearing for me.
Sorry, it's my turn. I hear from Commissioner Cushman the systemic problem that you are putting to light here. I also want to make sure that this doesn't, now we're doing a blame game of whose department is it responsible. And I just want to be very clear, our staff has done everything that they can in this institution to do what we have with what we have, right?
You're asking the question is that are we doing everything we can?
That's right.
Yeah, that's it.
I wanted to simply just have give voice to our employees who are working and providing these services. I think we give them, they work with what they have, and we have to acknowledge that. I like the approach of an audit, to your explanation, but I just wanted to make sure that our employees know this is not going to be going down to them for blame game.
Yeah, it's not. I think
this is not.
Commissioner Hazard, I think what you were hearing Commissioner Cushman say, and I agree with, is we have to modernize our approach. Now that we own 600 rooms of hotel space that we started buying but 4 years ago, 3-4 years ago. So we need to modernize and accept the fact that we have a new role. And when you're going to manage 600 rooms, they should be managed in a way that there's the highest focus on the security of the locations, on the health and safety of the locations, and that these are locations that are cared for. Again, new business, but modernizing the structure. And I think what Commissioner Cushman was saying is, if the asset management team, let's say that, right? If the asset management team has a role, then we need to modernize how their role addresses these. That's really it. So, okay.
I want to add the 2-year inspection schedule, I think makes perfect sense for traditional affordable housing when it has been maintaining. We see properties routinely that are well maintained, and that system is working for those properties under those conditions with those clients. Permanent supportive housing is not traditional affordable housing, and the problem here is there's a disconnect between the needs of permanent supportive housing and what has been working in other contexts, and that's part of what needs to be fixed. And I also want to agree with you that I trust the staff and the employees at the Housing Commission to handle some of these issues more than I trust the contractors that often get relied upon.
I would agree 100%.
And I'm sure that if I'm causing a problem here, our legal counsel will say something here, but we are exploring all options for how to build a system differently where we have more direct control over what is happening in these properties. We have responsibility. And because that is our responsibility. And unfortunately, if you look across the permanent supportive housing space, there are a lot of contracts and assumptions that all need to be reevaluated as to whether they are meeting the expectations that we had when we got into those agreements, and whether we need to take a fundamentally different approach. And I completely agree with Commissioner Hester. I have more faith in the staff at this commission to care about and address these issues than anyone else.
I agree 100%. All right, Commissioner Vasquez, let me have her, and then we're going to end. We need to move. So go ahead.
The only thing that I would suggest is that in a situation where you have so many people complaining about an issue, that would trigger an audit. I don't have a problem with every 2 years, like Commissioner Klempner was stating, that is so long as the property is in good standing or doesn't have issues. But as soon as that our asset management department gets that there are multiple complaints that have where the voucher holder or where the participant has has made a complaint to their management and it hasn't been recognized, it hasn't been addressed, and even our asset management team isn't able to get the problem resolved, then that triggers an audit, and we're like, okay, well then we're going to do a deep dive and see how many other issues are wrong, because that is a systemic problem.
I agree.
So that's my
I agree.
only
It's
suggestion.
a new world. It's a new world. So a good summary. All right, Jeff, we're gonna
So again, your passion on this subject is very, very heard, and we are on the same page. This was a very difficult conversation that we heard from the tenants. We, again, commit to you that we are going to reach out to every one of them. We will, to the extent possible, do 100% inspections of the complex where we are allowed to, because sometimes tenants don't let us in the units. But I did want to share just two pieces of information. One is that you will see in the budget presentation today that we are beginning the process of bringing these permanent supportive housing
back under ours.
Units under our
authority and control purview.
So we won't be working with third-party providers. We will be doing it ourselves, and to get to addressing some of these issues. And to your point, Commissioner Hester, we do also have in our budget a physical needs assessment for all of our portfolio. So over the course of the next upcoming months, we can begin to have a real look at it. And we do this periodically. It's not the first time we've ever done it, but it'll be an update to our current physical needs assessment, which will give you an absolute overview of our portfolio and where there are physical needs and where things are just fine.
Okay. We're going to move along. I know, Casey, you know what your responsibility is at this point of the meeting, correct? Okay. Vice Chair Clemner, do you want to ask the question, or do you want her to just tell you what the answer is because she's prepared?
I think she knows what the questions are.
Good morning, Commissioners. So I'm here to provide an update on the Coordinated Shelter Intake Program through the month of March. So in March, we were able to complete 21% of all shelter referrals. If you recall, that's a little bit of a bump, but I don't want anyone to get too excited. That was really due to we had to take about 60 beds offline as we were transitioning Golden Hall, just to make sure in case our attrition rate calculations were off. So what it did is we didn't need to use them, and it put those beds online all around the same time. So that's why you see a little bit of a bump there.
And that's a 1% bump?
It's on average, it's been 17 to 18%, and we were at 21%. Yep. So we were able to accommodate 80 additional referrals, and we had taken 62 offline. So, and again, the reason we're not able to accommodate the other 80%, again, is just due to not having an available bed that meets the person needs, mostly due to no male top bunk being available. It's about 50%. 14% the bottom bunk for males, and 12% bottom bunk for the females, and 12% bottom and 9% top for females.
And is it the usual we are at capacity between 10 o'clock and noon?
Yeah, probably sooner than that. I mean, on average, we have 15 to 18 beds available each day. But again, it takes a little bit of processing because we have to match them to the correct bed that they need. So, yeah, I would say probably by 10 or 11 a.m. they're completely full.
And we're in the 98 to 100% occupancy.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you, Casey. Mr. Davis, obviously you know the floor now. If there are no further comments from the commissioners, we're going to move on to the President and CEO report. Jeff's filling in for Lisa. So Jeff, go ahead.
Well, you'll be happy to know I just have 3 brief items for you this morning. Last month, Congress passed and President Biden signed into law the Federal Appropriations Bill for Housing and Urban Development. This means that federal dollars will be coming to San Diego for 2 San Diego Housing Commission projects. These one-time federal funds are through community project funding request and must be used for the specific projects to which they are awarded. First, the federal legislation allocated $1.5 million to support our proposed conversion of unused office space on the first floor of our building into a 45-bed shelter for transition-age youth experiencing homelessness. We'll use the funds for capital improvements necessary for the conversion of this site. U.S. Senator Alex Padilla and U.S. Representative Scott Peters included funding for this project in their community projects funding request. We've completed the design phase for this project and are planning to submit documents to the city in late May for the building permit review process. In addition, $850,000 in federal funds has been allocated toward our proposed University Avenue densification pilot project. This is our project to create additional affordable housing by increasing the density at the site of one of our affordable housing properties. These federal funds are in addition to the $2 million allocated to this project in the year's State of California budget, thanks to the support of State Senator Tony Atkins. We will use these funds for necessary pre-development work for this project. U.S. Representative Juan Vargas included this project in his community projects funding request. We're wrapping up initial site design and due diligence reports and preparing for the concept design. You'll recall that at a joint meeting on October 3rd, 2022, the County Board of Supervisors and the City Council approved a resolution expressing their intent to take joint action to increase the availability of affordable homes in San Diego. That includes increasing the density at affordable housing properties the Housing Commission owns and manages. We've been working closely with the City of San Diego on these efforts and look forward to moving forward with these federal resources. On April 4th, Chair Mitchell represented the Housing Commission at the celebration of the grand opening of the Nestor Senior Village Apartments. This new construction development provides affordable rental housing with supportive services for seniors who experienced homelessness, such as Taritha. After a little more than a year unhoused, she said she now has a place where she feels safe and that things can only go up from here. The Housing Commission awarded 73 rental housing vouchers to help residents like Taritha pay their rent at Nestor Senior Village. We also awarded a development loan that consists of federal home funds and city affordable housing funds that the Housing Commission administers. National Corps developed this project on property it is ground leasing for 90 years from Nestor United Methodist Church. Mayor Todd Gloria, City Council Member Vivian Moreno, and Chair of the County Board of Supervisors, Nora Vargas, also attended and spoke at the event. Finally, we wanted to share with you this morning about a community garden at one of our affordable housing properties for seniors with low income, Belden Village. A master gardener initially connected with our Achievement Academy and provided virtual gardening classes to our residents during the pandemic. San Diego Master Gardeners in a program of University of California Agricultural and Natural Resources. Last year, with federal funding available through a grant awarded to the County Health and Human Services Agency, the gardening project at Belden Village started. The San Diego Foundation distributed the funds for the county through the Community Food Grant Program, which seeks to increase food production and distribution to San Diegans with lower income who were severely impacted by COVID. The focus has been on seniors, such as residents at Belden Village and our Park Crest property. The garden beds were installed and filled with soil at Belden Village in early January. About 10 to 15 people attend the garden club at Belden Village, which meets every 2 weeks. They learn about soil, climate, water-wise plants, and how to grow and keep plants alive. Last month, they harvested some of what they had grown, and each household was able to take lettuce home to make salads. The group also had a mixed salad together. One of the residents said she had not been able to afford fresh produce for the past 2 years, and she was excited to be able to have it now at no cost. We'll be looking into opportunities to secure further grant funding to possibly provide community gardens at some of our other affordable housing properties as well. As a reminder, the Achievement Academy team won our CEO Award of Excellence last month. So kudos to the team for their passion, kindness, and their joy in what they do and how they consistently engage with the people they serve. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate it. Thanks for filling in today. All right, so we're going to move along. I know the Commissioner Hester, I thought we were supposed to have coffee after this, but I know she has to leave. I'm just kidding. I'm teasing. It's all right. I know she has to leave at a hard stop. I know. She's like, hey, man, all right, fair enough. So we're going to go ahead and right now we're going to move to the approval of the minutes for the regular and special meetings of March 15th. No speaker slips have been submitted for that. So, Commissioners, do we have any changes, comments, or do I have a motion? So I have a motion by Vice Chair Klumpner, a second by Commissioner Hester. We will, no further comments. All those in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passes unanimously. We will now move to the consent agenda. And as I said at the start of today's meeting, I was proposing that item 100, 101, and 102 be put on the consent agenda. We did have one consent agenda comment on the storage facilities, and I think, Mr. Davis, you understand, I think the board should hear more about what goes on around the storage units in terms of, the security, the cleaning, the management of the space, so that the comments that you heard today, we can, health concerns, that we can talk about what we are doing to be a good community partner in those situations, because they are our contracts. So hopefully you guys will be able to bring that back to us. You will all be able to bring something back to us before next meeting. Okay, no speaker slips have been submitted for the consent agenda other than the one comment. Oh, for item 100. Joy, I apologize. It's good to have you back, but Joy, you are up.
One minute will be great. But I do want to start out with this. Joyce Anetta, District 3, I'll start with this. We are about people. Thank you. That was a robust discussion on the commissioner's comment item. Thank you for that. That was great work. So on this item, I am so excited, I could just jump up and down. So the Strategic Plan Committee, Vice Chair Klumpner, thank you, along with Commissioners Hubbard and Vasquez, thank you. Now, way back in October, you remember? We were going to have a workshop on this right here at the board meeting. And I understand, Chair, why that was that was pulled at that point. I really would have liked to have that workshop here. So I'm not sure what the plan is. President Jones mentioned that the strategic plan will be coming forward this year, by the end of the year. So that's super duper. But the workshop would have been great for the public.
Yeah, I think, Joy, what we'll do is, what I think everybody, all of my colleagues would acknowledge is that we have to take a real hard look at our strategic plan, because the circumstances are difficult right now. We have to think about what our focus should be over the next 3 years. There will be a workshop attached to the strategic plan discussion, I promise.
Okay, you went a little fast for me, Chair.
So we will.
I know you get up at 4 a.m. or something. I don't.
Okay, fair enough.
I'm still waking up.
Okay. All right.
Anyway, we're
having a conversation.
We're going to get it this year, aren't we?
Yes, we are. Yes, we
okay.
are. Okay.
He raised his hand. That's the vice chair right there.
That is correct.
But thank you for that. That's great. And you're good. Okay. Love to all.
Joy, it's good to have you back. Okay, so there are no further public comments on the consent agenda, so I'm looking for a motion and a second. Commissioner Jackson, and second by Commissioner Cushman. Any more comments? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion carries unanimously. So we'll now go on to, now Commissioner Hester, what I think we're going to do is we have item 103 and 104 that should go. Those should be fairly simple, and then I think we have 2 informational workshops, so we should be able to get through the things that we need your votes on, so that you can be out of here on time. Thank you. Okay? So with that being said, let's move to item 103. We will take public comments after the staff presentation, and this is the presentation is going to be by the Director of Multifamily Underwriting and Special Assets, Michelle Muniz, and then we'll be joined on this item by Vice President of Multifamily Housing, Ms. Kreuter. Good to see you, Jennifer. All right. The floor is yours, and you understand our time crunch. Thank you. Trust me, when we're going to the agenda. Jennifer, the floor is yours.
Good morning, Chair Mitchell and Commissioners.
Good morning.
The item before you today is a request to approve the final steps to issue tax-exempt multifamily housing revenue bonds, as well as hold a TEFRA hearing for the acquisition and rehabilitation of Seabreeze Gardens Apartments. Seabreeze Gardens is the proposed acquisition and rehabilitation of a 268-unit project, which is made up of 266 affordable units and 2 unrestricted managers units. The project is located at 4808 to 4888 Logan Avenue in the Chollas Valley neighborhood in Council District 4. The project consists of 36 two-story garden-style buildings, one commercial building, which is currently leased to a daycare center, a community clubhouse, and 6 laundry facilities. The unit mix includes 100 two-bedroom and 166 three-bedroom affordable units for families earning between 30 to 60% of the area median income. This equates to income levels between $37,250 to $82,680 per year for 3 and 4 person households. All affordable units will be income restricted for a period of 55 years and are supported by a project-based Section 8 contract administered by the Los Angeles Lomad Corporation. The developer, Lincoln Avenue Communities, formerly known as Lincoln Avenue Capital, is an experienced developer who owns and operates more than 26,000 units across 119 properties throughout the U.S. Services for the tenants will be provided by Pacific Housing and will include access to health and wellness classes and after-school programs for children between the ages of 7 and 17. This slide shows the site map of the development and the proximity to transit, schools, and grocery stores. The closest bus stop is within 100 feet of the community. The closest public schools are less than a half mile away, and the closest grocery store is within a quarter mile of the project site. The total development cost of the project is just over $156.4 million, which equates to a per unit cost of approximately $584,000. Sources of funding include a bond finance loan, 4% tax credits, a seller carryback note, and deferred developer fee. No Housing Commission loan funds are proposed for this development. Current rents are restricted at 50 to 60% of the area median income and range from $1,551 to $2,150 per month. The new proposed rents will increase affordability by restricting rents between 30 to 60% of the area median income for a period of 55 years. Rents will range from $930 to $2,150 per month. Should this be approved today, staff will present to the Housing Authority for approval on May 21st. The developer would subsequently close construction financing in June and begin construction shortly thereafter with an anticipated completion date of December 2025. Here is a picture of the property as it currently stands. To summarize the developer's request, you are considering approvals to take the final steps to issue up to $75 million in tax-exempt multifamily housing revenue bonds. Bond issuance will not create a financial liability to the Housing Commission, Housing Authority, nor the city. Neither the full faith and credit nor taxing power of the city nor full faith and credit of the Housing Authority will be pledged to payment of the bonds. Staff recommends that the board take the actions detailed in the staff report and shown on the following slides. This concludes the presentation. Jennifer and I, along with representatives from the developer, are available to answer any questions you may have.
Ms. Muniz, you when for a moment when you got to the numbers and I was like, oh boy, okay, here she goes. Good job.
Appreciate it.
All right. We have one speaker slip on this item 103. It is Joy Senyata. Joy, the mic is yours.
Joy Senyata, District 3. Thank you for the presentation. They're always great. And I always feel obligated and honored, really, to speak on these TEFRA items. I think the public is really needs to do that. So quickly on this, 75 million, 266 units, 55 years, 30 to 60% AMI, preservation, acquisition, rehabilitation. Thank you for the relocation plan. I did have trouble doing the math on that. It doesn't seem like it's enough money. And then, let's see, what was that other? Oh, I'm not sure of the revised affordable housing levels. That really is critical, so I'd like more clarity on that. This matches my 3 Ps. Commissioner Cushman, you haven't heard this yet. My 3 Ps are preservation, prevention, powering. Preservation, this preserves available housing stock. Prevention helps prevent homelessness. Powering empowers our people to improve the quality of their lives. Thank you, thank you. We are about people. Love to you.
Thank you, Joy. All right, commissioners, that's the only public comment speech slip we have. So if there's no others, I will ask if there are any commissioner questions, comments, or do we have a motion?
It's actually probably more of a question.
You want to turn your mic on?
In light of the fact that we just had our public comments earlier, I want to make sure that in this project, there's going to be some type of requirement to reinvest in the property so that they don't allow for the property to get run into the ground after they start receiving vouchers or payments from their tenants. Someone's got to turn theirs off.
Yeah, there will be, and I'm actually going to ask the developer if he'll come up and speak on that question, just to clarify.
Thank you.
Good morning. Yes, so we will be doing a large-scale rehabilitation and then annually, I guess not annually, but reinvesting in the property as as needs come up in terms of that's not just landscaping, as was mentioned. That's inside of the units for the residents, the community space. There's ongoing inspections done by HUD, also done by us with our management companies that we work with. We require 100% unit walk at least every 6 months, and that means we are inside doing every single unit, talking to the resident, and that's a good opportunity for us to hear from them and say, hey, I've got a leaky shower, hey, my toilet's not working, or hey, I found some mold in this corner. Otherwise, if they don't come to us and you're not doing those inspections, you never find that out. So that is a requirement we have, and it helps us to identify where on the site needs more attention.
If I could just ask a follow-up question, are your standards higher or just the same as HUD's for the units?
They're definitely higher. HUD really comes in, they do that REACT inspection that identifies things here and there, but HUD doesn't go in and talk to the residents. They don't get any feedback from the residents. It's more of a report that you get that says these are the things we identified and here's your score. These are the things you need to correct. But that doesn't identify everything that needs to be updated. It's very high level. So that 100% unit walk, I think, is one of the most beneficial things you can do.
And how are you going to memorialize that information that you receive from the tenants when you do that walk every 6 months?
Yeah, so we take all that information, and once that 100% unit walk is done over that 3 or 4 days, then you put into a plan with the maintenance staff. We work with our management company to identify what needs to be done, the timetable for when it's going to be done. It's an internal process. It has nothing to do with with HUD, but that gives us more. It just gives us an idea of what needs to be done rather than a resident coming to us 9 months after there's an issue. We're trying to be more proactive and get inside the units as much as possible to tackle it before it becomes a bigger issue, because things like mold grows. If there's a little bit of mold, you can catch it before it takes over the whole unit. That's really important. So getting inside of units more often than not is a really good tool.
Well, I think, and just this is my last follow-up because I know time is of the essence, but I think the sentiment that was felt today during public comment is that people are having to take time out of their day to complain why they have all these other issues, but then nothing gets done. And so that's the reason why it's important to memorialize the information and make sure there's follow-up. And so the only knotted thing I would ask is, would you be okay with if the San Diego Housing Commission received too many complaints, a threshold of complaints from your property, that that activated in an audit, that you would give us those documents that show, hey, that these are the times that we interacted with our tenants, and this is the work that we did to try and rectify the situation, so that we could have transparency on our side that we're going to spend this money, and that we're not enabling other people to take advantage of our tenants, or to become, to participate in slumlord practices.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Any further comments, questions from the commissioners? All right, then I will entertain a motion in a second. Motion by Vice Chair Klempner,
Yes.
second by Commissioner Hester. No further comments, questions. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. All right, we have, we're going to move quickly to item 104, because again, as I promised Commissioner Hester, we're going to try and get through this. So Kat, you can assume that the commissioners have read a lot of this, so you and Chriselle, well, I love listening to you guys, go through each slide, but, it's eloquent. So, let's get moving.
Thank you, Chairman Schittle. Good morning, Commissioners. As you mentioned, we're here to seek approval on the fiscal year 2025 Affordable Housing Fund, and we'll move fast. Helps if I move. There we go. The fund, as you're aware, consists of fees from commercial development and fees from residential development. Under the residential development, they have the option to either pay the fees or build affordable units on site. Do want to spend some time on this slide. This slide does show the fee collections for both funds, and I'm not going to focus on the blue line, which is the linkage fees, which hovers around $1.4 to $3 million. But I do want to point out the red line, which is the inclusionary fees. There's an erratic drop in 2023. We received only $0.7 million in inclusionary fees. Now, we're working with DST at the city to better understand the reasons. One of the factors is the cause could be the ordinance changes, which we'll talk about on the next slide. In addition, other affordable housing programs like the city's density bonus programs, complete communities programs may also have an impact on the fee collections. And lastly, it's the timing of the fee collection. So fees are determined based on applications submitted or deemed complete date and collected prior to the issuance of the permits. The units that are built on site are typically recorded when affordable housing agreements are recorded or occupancy permits are issued. There's that lag that could be explained some of it, but it is something we are very cognizant of and going to track a lot more closer. This is the ordinance approved by the City Council in December 2019. It basically took the fees increasing from $15.18 to $25 by 2025. In lieu of that, you could either build 2% of your units to 10% allocation on site. So July 1st, 2025, it'll be either $25 in lieu fees or 10% allocation. This has been a very successful program, as seen on the slide, since Housing Trust Fund, which originated in 1990, and the inclusionary, which initiated in 2003. We've created over 9,000 affordable housing units, preserved 400 affordable housing units. This program is also used for our first-time home buyers, and we've created over 380 first-time home buyers. And it's used to assist homeless families, and there's about 24,000 households that have been impacted through this program. And with that, I'll pass it on to Chriselle. Sorry.
Thank you. So the affordable housing funds may be allocated to programs identified in the list of model programs. For FY25, we propose allocating funds to rental housing finance, homeownership, and homelessness activities. Let's take a look at the detailed allocation. Here you can see in detail the fiscal year 25 proposed funding allocation to the various programs as compared to FY24. With an estimated $34.7 million in fund balance and $6.3 in new revenue, we will be funding $23.1 million of prior commitments from NOFA, or Notice of Funding Availability, issued and awarded in prior years, as well as ADU loans awarded in fiscal year 24. The remainder is allocated in its plan, with a proposed $6 million going towards a new NOFA, $2 million for homeownership activities, and over $6 million towards homelessness programs. There is a notable decrease from the FY24 plan budget, and this is a direct result of some reduction we're seeing in available funding. Here's another representation of the proposed allocation. 68% is committed to rental housing finance activities for the production of affordable housing. To further the outreach of the Affordable Housing Fund and gain feedback from the public, and our community engagement this year, for the first time, included our public engagement portal known as Public Input. We created a webpage at engagesdhc.org/FY25 AHF plan, inviting members of the public to submit their comments through this portal. We sent over 2,500 emails to Section 8 Housing Choice Voucher households, residents of our affordable rental housing units, and others to make them aware of the opportunities to provide comments. All this resulted in a significant increase in public comment received this year. In the past 4 years, no written comment were submitted. However, this year, we received 64. The most comments we received were from the downtown area, followed by Ocean Beach. All the comments are included in the plan at the end of the plan. Here's an example of newly constructed affordable housing development built with financing that included Affordable Housing Fund revenues. Today, we are asking the board to recommend that the City Council approves the Affordable Housing Fund and the authorization listed on this slide. And this concludes our presentation. We're available to answer any questions. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much for the presentation. There are no speaker slips, public comment slips, or speaker slips have been submitted. I think that, Shakat, I think you and I have talked about this plan before. Appreciate the additional information. The one thing I would note is when you find out from the city what's happening on the lag, that'd be great. If there's a way that you guys can, I think what's important for the commission to also understand is the in lieu fee. The last 4 years, I think it's nice to look at it in segments. So can you give us the 16 to 20 number and then the 20 to 24 number so we can see the comparison? I think that's important to note as we assess what's happening in that space. Okay. Comments, questions about the presentation? All right. That makes that simple. Then we will. I will need a motion on this item. 104, motion and a second.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Vasquez. Second by Vice Chair Klempner. Any additional comments? All right. Commissioner Hester did say we can't counter vote, but she is in support of this. So, with no further comments or questions, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion carries unanimously, with Commissioner Hester being absent. She had to leave early. So, Ashley Swain, I think you're up next. No, I'm teasing you. She did. She was like, "Oh, okay." All right. Next item is what we're going to do for the commissioners. We're going to move the item 106 informational workshop on moving to work annual plan amendment. Because that's informational. So we're going to move that next month because I think we're going to spend the time on the budget so that we will get you out of here.
Next month it'll be here as an action item.
Okay. Okay, as an action item. Okay, that's fine. So we'll do it that way. So we will move to item 105. This is the informational workshop about the Housing Commission's proposed fiscal year 2025 budget. We'll take any public comments afterwards. There are no speaker slips on this, but Deputy CEO Jeff Davis will be introducing this item, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, and good morning again. So over the past few months, our staff has been working diligently to prepare the budget for the upcoming fiscal year. As we typically do, we took a conservative approach. That's especially important this year because of the funding constraints that many government agencies, including both the City of San Diego and the Housing Commission, are facing. As Lisa has said on several occasions, this budget season will require difficult choices. We were prepared to present today's workshop to you with the detailed proposed budget, as we do in April every year, to receive your feedback and then return to you in May to request your approval. Lisa has recently had several conversations with Mayor Gloria, council members, and board members on the challenges both the city and the Housing Commission are facing in fiscal year 2025, and the difficult decisions ahead of us that will need to be made to best meet the needs of the communities and program participants that we serve. In a time when we need to be creating more affordable housing, addressing homelessness more, and investing in prevention more, we are facing more limited resources to fund our work. How we address these funding limitations while remaining committed to fulfilling our mission is going to call for a number of significant budget trade-offs. As I said, we plan to present a detailed proposed budget workshop during our workshop today, but unfortunately, our funding levels from the federal and local government are uncertain. We still do not have a funding letter from the Department of Housing and Urban Development that details the funds that we will receive for our Housing Choice Voucher program, and we'll talk about that more in a little bit. Additionally, we learned late Tuesday afternoon that the proposed funding levels for the homelessness programs that the Housing Commission administers on behalf of the city are substantially lower than anticipated. In many cases, they are lower than this current fiscal year, and the mayor's budget relies on $15 million from the Housing Commission. This decrease in city funding to administer city programs creates a stark picture and will require us to propose substantial changes to the budget that we had prepared, and will have significant impacts to some program operations and staffing. We have begun this process, but we need additional time to determine a revised, fiscally prudent budget that we can present to you with sufficient and accurate detail. Our goal is to return to you with budget and program options to consider that results in a thoughtful, responsible recommendation about how to move forward. So this morning, we will be presenting information about some of the fiscal challenges facing us as an agency. We'll also talk at a higher level about many of the expenditures that we have anticipated for fiscal year 2025. However, we are presenting this to you with the understanding that our budget will be changing, and as we await our funding determination from HUD and work through the city budget process to determine and negotiate final funding levels from the city for programs the Housing Commission administers for the city. This will be done with a goal of ensuring that the budget trade-offs that are made focus on appropriately funding shelter and service programs to meet client needs, while trying to mitigate impacts to other mission-driven programs that the Housing Commission operates to provide critical rental assistance and address and prevent homelessness. Our fiscal year 2025 budget will need to reflect the realities of fiscal challenges while enabling us to continue to provide vital housing assistance for families with lower income in the coming year and beyond. As rents have consistently risen in the city in recent years, the amount of rental assistance that we provide has also increased. In fiscal year 2023, we dispersed $86 million more in rental assistance than we did just 3 years earlier in fiscal year 2020. Let that sink in for a minute. In fiscal year 2023, we dispersed $86 million more in rental assistance than we did just 3 years earlier in fiscal year 2020. Year to date, in fiscal year 2024, our average monthly housing assistance payment is 48% higher than the average in fiscal year 2020. While the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development has provided additional funding, it has not been enough to keep up with the rising rents in San Diego. For more than a year, we have not pulled any new families from our Section 8 Housing Choice Voucher waiting list so that they can begin to receive the rental assistance they need, and we anticipate that that is going to be the case for several more years. To assist our participating families, we have increased our payment standards, which essentially is the value of the voucher, in each of the past 7 years. And we will need to continue to do so to mitigate the impacts of our high-cost rental housing market within the funding that we have available. Essentially, we can expect the average cost per household to continue to rise, and we must budget for that to promote the ongoing housing stability for our voucher families. It is also important to keep in mind that more than 80% of our rental assistance households have extremely low income. That means they earn 30% of the area median income or less, which is roughly $41,000 per year for a family of 4. As I mentioned earlier, uncertainty about our funding sources also overshadows our budget preparation. After multiple continuing resolutions, the federal appropriations bill for housing and urban development was just signed into law last month, and we have not yet received from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development their determination of how much funding we will receive for our rental assistance program for this calendar year. As of today, the fiscal year 2024 HUD funding we have received this year for rental assistance is less than the amount we are expending for our housing assistance payments. As I mentioned, we also will be working through the city budget process to negotiate and determine the final funding amounts the city will provide for the city homeless shelters and service programs that we administer on their behalf. Each year, the city asks us to provide a draft budget for these programs based on current fiscal year expenditures. For the fiscal year 2025 budget, that process started in December 2023. We also need to be mindful that costs for insurance, utilities, and staff for these programs are increasing. As I mentioned, we received the city's proposed funding levels for these programs from city staff late Tuesday afternoon. Their proposed funding levels for programs reflect some significant decreases in program funds, which will have some major impacts to the operations of the homelessness shelters and service programs we administer for the city compared to current fiscal year funding. It will take some time to work through what these impacts look like operationally. Our fiscal challenges also include that fee collections for the inclusionary housing portion of the Affordable Housing Fund have been declining in recent years. Against the backdrop of these challenges, I'll now ask Suket and Cristal to share some of the general information about elements of our budget for fiscal year 2025.
Thanks, Jeff. The budget we originally prepared would have totaled $715 million. The increase over the current year is primarily due to one-time funding sources, which are shown on the slide. They include funding for the acquisition and rehabilitation of properties with support of the state's Home Key program, 1 year of a 3-year state infill infrastructure grant, and anticipated additional federal housing voucher funding to begin to address the rising rents, as Jeff detailed earlier. The voucher funding is pending a final obligation letter from HUD, which we have not received yet. Only the infill infrastructure grant funds would continue into a future year's budget, and those funds are limited to only 3 years. They're also allocated to specific projects that receive the award through a competitive state process. And as Jeff said, we will need to consider the impacts to programs and staffing based on new information from our city, so the overall budget amount will be changing. Depending on HUD's determination of our funding, we anticipate making housing assistance payments totaling more than $264 million to continue to assist approximately 17,000 households with low income in the new fiscal year. This includes special purpose vouchers for a vulnerable population. We also anticipate that 431 housing units for which we have previously committed project-based vouchers will come online and lease up in fiscal year 2025. And we continue to provide opportunities for households with lower income to become more financially self-reliant through programs at our award-winning Achievement Academy. The Achievement Academy programs that emphasize career planning, job skills, job placement, and personal financial education, such as budgeting. These programs are offered at no cost to the participants who are households with low income in the city. To provide deed-restricted affordable rental housing, our proposed budget also included $10 million to be awarded to developers through a competitive notice of funding availability to create 100 new affordable rental housing units. We will also be expending $87 million in state, county, and city funds towards the acquisition and rehabilitation of affordable housing property through the state's Home Key program. The state already has announced the award of funds to the Housing Commission for these properties, with the city and the county also committing to these funds to make these housing opportunities a reality. Our budget will also include these funds for required repairs and code compliance at affordable housing units the Housing Commission owns or manages. Funding for continuing our project to increase the density at our Casa Colina property and to create more affordable housing, as well as to assist first-time homebuyers and to finance construction of accessory dwelling units will also be included. The funds for Casa Colina densification project were awarded by the state specifically for that project. The accessory dwelling units would be required to have rents affordable for households with low income for 7 years. As part of the city budget process, we recommended allocations to the city's funds for ongoing operations of city programs we administer and for Housing Commission run programs such as the Housing Instability Prevention Program. Our recommendations included a slight increase from the current fiscal year budget. We also proposed the Housing Commission funds to support homelessness programs. The preliminary proposed funding amounts we received from the city this week are significantly less than what is budgeted in our current fiscal year. This will require the difficult decisions Jeff previously mentioned and will impact our overall budget. We will be focusing on efforts on how to review and make recommendations to address this area of the budget in conversations with the city. The numbers on this slide will also be updated as we work through the changes we are making, but we wanted to share this information with you so that further reflects the limitations of our resources. The table on this slide shows what we anticipated would have been our fund balance at the start of fiscal year 2025, as well as the projected ending fund balance at the end of the fiscal year. Much of the funding in the fund balance is not available for use on other programs as they are committed, obligated, and restricted funds. As an example, portions of the fund balance represent funds that are restricted and must be held for a specific use until they are dispersed. This would include affordable housing developments, to which the Housing Commission has awarded loan funds in the Notice of Funding Availability that have not yet been dispersed because developers are either securing additional financing or are working towards the necessary development milestones. Additionally, the fund balance includes resources for the contingency reserve the Independent Budget Analyst, or IBA, recommends for our operational expenses the Housing Commission will incur. You can see on this table that our initial proposed budget anticipated at the end of fiscal year 25, we would have $21 million in the ending fund balance for this category. That is the minimum amount the IBA office recommends for us to have as a contingency reserve. We also have funds designated for property replacement expenses and lender-required operating reserves, and a small amount for our headquarter buildings here at Smart Corner. At the bottom of the slide, you will see information about funds HUD holds in our reserves for our rental assistance programs. We do not have these funds in the Housing Commission accounts, and we may access them only from HUD for limited purposes. In the case where we are spending more than rental assistance than we're receiving, you can see these funds will decrease significantly over fiscal year 25 to attempt to keep up with the rising rents. The ending fund balance we had anticipated for the HUD-held funds at the end of fiscal year 25 is less than what we would need to fund 1 month of rental assistance payments if we needed in situations such as a federal government shutdown. Now, we will be revising these numbers as we update the budget based on future conversations with the city on final funding levels and when we receive our final funding letter from HUD. But this slide makes it clear that we do not have funding or flexibility to be able to use funds for other programs. There are no easy answers this budget season. As Jeff shared, Lisa has been having conversations with Mayor Gloria and our council members about the constraints we are all experiencing. We do acknowledge and understand the city is also in a difficult financial position that will require the city council and the housing authority to make hard decisions with limited resources. We are reconfiguring our budget to reflect the realities of the challenge facing us today based on the new information we have received. We will work to provide recommendations to this board and the housing authority that will enable us to continue to provide the housing assistance that so many families with lower income rely on. At the same time, we will exercise financial prudence and our core value of being good financial stewards. This concludes our presentation, and we're open for questions.
All right. Thank you very much, Suket and Christelle. I'm going to open it up. There are no speaker slips on this, so I'm going to go ahead and open it up to Commissioner questions and comments. And I think Vice Chair Clemmer has his up. Before he asks that, I question for you, Suket, just on the $4.4 million for increased density Casa Colina. It's mixed in with the increase of shelter space. That's what we're going to do on the first floor here. Is there a number for the first floor? 1.5. Okay. So the 1.5 in that is for the, and do we have a timeline on, I think we've talked about getting that moving as quickly as possible. And I've said to the city that they should be helping us move as quickly as possible.
Yeah, we have designs created, and we are on the verge of working with the city to get the planning permits going.
I expect those permits to happen fast. If there's a problem, you should let us know. Okay, Vice Chair Klempner.
Thank you. This is obviously a very difficult budget year, so I have some questions that hopefully will help me and anybody else sort of understand what this means in practical terms. Looking at city homeless programs administered by the Housing Commission, how much money was allocated this year? How much did we request to maintain the existing shelter and service levels for the next year? And how much has the city proposed for this coming year?
Sure. For the city homeless programs, the allocation by the city in fiscal year 24 was $48 million. The recommended program funding for fiscal year 25 was $52 million. And what the city proposed is $27.9 million.
I'm going to ask you to do the math for me here.
We got Excel open, so we're good.
What is that as a percentage cut to city homeless shelters and services that we provide?
So that would be a percentage cut of 41.8 from fiscal year 24 levels, 42%.
42%, okay.
46% from our...
Did the city give us a percentage target cut in that range and ask us for recommendations on how we might make that with the most minimal disruption?
The answer is no, but I'm going to call Casey to answer that question in detail.
No.
Casey,
No.
well, I've got you then, and I don't know who's the best person to answer this, but you might be. Can you give us some examples of where these cuts are coming from?
So we just got, like Jeff said, we received the budget on Tuesday, and reviewing it, it's, there's going to be an impact to outreach services that the commission administers, a heavy cut in food service line items, so a reduction of lunch services at the various shelters. There's several shelters that have lunch services because of where they're located or the population they serve, for example, families, and some of our midway shelters that aren't near as many mainstream resources. To be honest, to accommodate a cut that severe, we would really have to look at staffing patterns and across the different programming. That would really be the only way to look at a cut that large and or to look at eliminating programs.
Where does our homeless prevention program fall within these cuts?
The funding that is proposed would allow us to support the existing households that we're serving today, but we would be able to enroll no additional households.
Okay, I want to highlight that one because in all my discussions over the past however many years I've been here, I've lost track. It seems like there's been a widespread consensus among policymakers that the most efficient program is prevention, because once somebody falls into homelessness, it becomes much more costly, and the longer they are in homelessness, those costs become exponential. So if we are enrolling no new households in the prevention program, what that is going to lead to is dramatically higher need and costs later. Is that, am I misremembering anything here, or are we all kind of in agreement that that's been our assumption?
Yes.
Okay. I think that's all for you, Casey, right now. I'm going to go back to Sukat.
Casey, I got confused by your first answer.
No. I was reading in the paper this morning, so the city's proposed reserve levels right now, which it, I think very reasonably points out are not sufficient and are not the target that they've been aiming for, but this is a difficult year. The city is at 9.6% reserves as a percentage of its total budget. If we were to calculate our reserves in the same way, what would our reserves be as a percentage of our budget?
Give me 1 second. So that would be 7.4% if we include the HCV held reserves, and if not, then it would be 5.6%.
Okay, and the ACA held reserves, again, those are not Housing Commission controlled accounts, those are administered by HUD.
Yeah.
So, I'm sorry, what did you say? If we back that out, that is?
5.6.
5.6%. Okay, so we're at about half the city's reserves, and we're facing a 42% cut to the homeless services and shelter budget that we administer for the city. I am not aware of, and I can't think of a budget year where I've ever seen or heard of any agency or department of the city that has faced a budget cut of that depth. How many, you alluded to this earlier, but how many weeks of rental assistance can we pay for in the event of a government shutdown? There has been one since I've been on this board.
There's been one, and there's been threats of many, as we're all familiar with. But if at the end of fiscal year 25, it'll drop down to basically paying half a month or 2 weeks worth of rental assistance.
2 weeks. So if there was a shutdown for 3 weeks, tenants and landlords would stop receiving payment.
It'll be, yes, and the problem is you have to pay the full month's rent at the first, so.
Right.
Yeah.
I have a request of my commissioners. I was reading in the paper this morning that there is $18 million in the city's budget for the proposed acquisition of Kettner and Vine. I don't know enough about that proposal to speak to it, so this is not a statement as to that proposal. But I would ask that we send a letter from the commissioners to the City Council, the Housing Authority, that requests that in the event that the Kettner and Vine lease does not move forward, that the full $52 million budget needed to maintain the existing service level and shelter levels be restored to the Housing Commission's budget.
Okay, so your request is that a letter go from the commission, putting that on the table for consideration. Okay. All right, let's discuss that at the end. Any further comments on the budget, Commissioner Vasquez?
Yes, I'm not sure what this amount is, but the inclusionary fees that we collect at the time of granting the permit, but then we have to hold on to until there's a project that we can spend that money on. It's always been a sore point for me because it's before the developers get the benefit of selling the property at the higher purchase price, right? Because inclusionary fees are based off of the units that are being sold, and then they actually recover a much larger percentage of well, how do I say that I think it's inclusionary fee is 10%. It's much less by the time the last unit is sold. So that being said, I'd like to know out of our budget how much of a percentage of our funds is based off of the inclusionary fees. If that's possible. I know it's kind of in the weeds, but.
No, we can, so when you say inclusionary fees, I just want to clarify, just not collections or the total budgeted amount for Affordable Housing Fund?
So the amount of fees that we have collected, I guess, is that are in our budget.
Okay, that are in this budget?
This budget,
okay.
correct.
So this budget, it's approximately 5.5, well, we can get you the exact number, but it's 5.6 million of the 715.
Okay, so it's a small amount.
Yeah, that we're collecting. What we're holding, like we talked about, is a lot more because of previous deals.
How much are we holding?
So Yes, so I just made the calculation. So the collection, the 5.6 expected revenue represent less than 1% of our overall budget. If I do include the fund balance currently with us, and earmark for NOFA projects and ADUs, that will, oops. We're looking at 5% of the budget, 5.7% of the budget. So still fairly small.
Okay, so still very small. Okay, thank you.
Okay. No further comments. Okay, so what I would say is that I think that Mr. Davis was clear in that we are in discussion phases of the budget. So there is there's a lot that's probably going to take place. It is clear that there is a conversation that needs to happen between us, the mayor, and the council president, who's the head of the housing authority, about the direction that we're going to move in. It is clear to all of us that we have a long list of things that we need to try and achieve over the next year, and obviously this current budget situation will force us to be laser-like focused. You know, I've said this to Lisa over and over and over again, that our focus these days, now more than ever, has to be on prevention and preservation. Production is great. We know we're going to need to build more to try and really address this problem, but I think my fellow commissioners would all agree that prevention and preservation really have to be the focus. We've got to keep people in places, keep them off the streets. And so, Jeff, I suspect that when we will, our next conversation about the budget will include the clarity, because it'll show the results of the negotiations with the mayor and the council president / the housing authority about what we can do and what changes need to be made. Again, this is a difficult situation. What I have made this statement at City Hall a few times. Anything that we're looking at, I hope, is a one-year blip. The crisis that we have is not going to be done. It's going to get worse. But again, we are a partner to the mayor, and we are trying to be a partner to the mayor and the city, and the council president. So there's not a lot there for 2 years, right? But we will do everything we can to try and still serve and meet the needs of the population that depends on us. I would make the statement, Casey, you mentioned food services. I think we're going to need to be creative. Mr. C and I have a long history of food. I always say, I don't know if I'll ever serve on another board with Vice Chair Klempner, because he cries, I cry. Hunger is one of those things that I just can't accept. We live in a beautiful city. No one should go to bed hungry. And if we have an obligation to feed people, we need to figure out how to do it and be creative. Casey Castillo was brilliant when I called him on that Saturday after the floods, and the San Diego Food Bank stepped up without question and helped us feed people who were being displaced. And I think he and Lisa know each other really well now, and I want to take my hat off to Casey and the food bank for what they did. We should start having those meetings now about what are some creative ways to try and address hunger, so that we are not sitting here saying, well, we wish we could feed you more, but for the next year, hunger is your reality. So, again, there's a lot that has to be done. I think on the prevention piece, I've said this to Lisa, and Mr. C is aware of this. I mean, there have been times when we've gone to the business community and put out the all call. As I said at the last meeting, when I was really proud of some of the responses when we called out for help with housing displaced families after the floods. Illumina, they gave us $50,000 in Suquette. You remember we had to rush to set up a fund. Lucky Duck, $100,000. I think we're going to have to do the same thing here, because prevention. And I do think we can get some of our partners to understand that this situation, we really need them to lean in. Mr. C, you remember the quarterback club when we were doing housing, we were saving the food bank. So There's not much more that we can do today on this, other than just wait for the change to see what the results are of the discussions. But I do think that Vice Chair Klempner's request is fair. I think it's reasonable to put it out there that in the event that some things don't happen, that the shelter money be restored. I think people are going to hear this conversation and wonder, if you only have X amount for shelters, what are you going to do? Because the shelter component has become a large part of our operation. And so that's a question that we need to try and answer and create a backup for. But in the end, this is the harsh reality of what we're facing right now. And as I always say to the Housing Commission team, you all have a tough job. You do a brilliant job every day. It's gonna get tougher, but our resolve has to be just as high. So, there are no further questions, Mr. C.
Yes, if in fact you decide to send a letter, I would need to abstain from that, Mr. Chairman, because I am deeply part of the team.
Yes.
That is involved in building that facility.
Yeah, I note that immediately, and that makes sense.
On that note, since Commissioner Hester had to leave, I grabbed her on the way out and asked if she had an opinion, and she said that she would support and lend her name to that letter. Okay. Additionally, I mean, since you're bringing up the food, I want to point out that the reason I was asking about whether we've gone through with a if anybody's asked us for a target, and we've been given an opportunity to make more surgical cuts here, is that my deep concern is that we are going to be squandering the money that we have when programs become unworkable. Yeah. And as you're pointing out, people need food. Yeah. And if we want them to stay in a shelter and not be out on street corners panhandling to feed themselves, then we need to make sure that they have access to, at a bare minimum level of food that they can get in that shelter. They can't be in a shelter without food. And similarly, I pulled up our CEO's last at a glance report, and for years we have struggled to staff these facilities. Yeah. And when we have staffing shortages and somebody gets sick, that means that we can't accept new residents into those shelters. We have to stop allowing people in. And one year ago, in May 2023, our homeless sector staffing levels were at a 16% vacancy. And that was a substantial improvement of where it had been a year prior to that. We're currently at 7%. That's the best it's ever been. If we make staffing cuts, which was among the things that Casey mentioned is proposed here, we may end up with shelters that we are paying for that are not functional shelters anymore because they cannot be staffed. Because we will have, if we go backwards, we won't have a 16% vacancy rate, we will have a 30 or 40% vacancy rate, and that means we turn people out of the shelters and close the doors. I don't know what the purpose would be of funding a shelter that is not staffed to be able to operate at the levels that we're funding it. So that is why I'm making this request for this letter, because I deeply appreciate the work that everybody is doing to try to increase our capacity, but I don't think we're looking at an increase in capacity at this moment. And I want to establish that the first and best thing that we can do in a difficult budget year is try to protect the most critical services for the most vulnerable people. Yeah. A 42% cut to those services should not be the way that we close gaps. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm looking out at the faces in the audience, and I think everybody understands that we're all in this together. And if that's not clear, I'll repeat that. We're all in this together, and we have some work to do. We're not going to wake up tomorrow and this crisis is over and we got lucky. So with that being said, I think that's the final comments for this portion. I look forward to the actual discussion on the board. On the letter, Mr. C so noted on your abstention from that. I do think it's important, as the vice chair said, is to make it clear to the housing authority and the city that, if we had a magic wand, we'd make sure we did everything we can to preserve the system of shelters and feeding people. I think we can be creative. Casey, I can work with you on that. Because again, no one in the city should go to bed hungry. And so with that, if there aren't any further comments, this meeting stands adjourned at 11:35. Thank you.